Drink water, people. Stay hydrated. Ironically enough, this is a video where I'm going to explain my absence on YouTube a little more in depth, which involves my journey with alcoholism and sobriety. As you guys know, I decided to share my my sobriety journey on TikTok, and it blew up. I started abusing alcohol when I was in an abusive relationship that I didn't really realize was abusive at the time. There came a point where things got dangerous for me and I left that night. But prior to leaving, I had been drinking on the evenings wine coolers pretty regularly. After moving out, that put me in a position where I didn't have very many options on places to go because both my parents are addicts, and I moved out at 14. And at this point, I was 19, turning 20. It was July, I was 19, I was turning 20 in August. And dealing with that breakup, dealing with the realization of what I thought was going to be the person that I was going to be with forever was one I didn't want to sit with. I didn't want to sit with those feelings. I found out that he was an addict behind my back, and that genuinely was so challenging for me to process because I felt like I had somewhat of like a sixth sense when it came to people using substances or abusing them because of my upbringing, that I felt so befuddled and genuinely just felt dumb. It made me feel so insecure within myself. I felt like I couldn't trust anyone and that I had let someone fool me so easily, and I've spent a lot of work overcoming that. Trusting a partner. I think that it was a really long process that, how do I put this? I thought I was fully healed from, but I think current events that happened in my life this year really helped me to break down some walls. My current partner that I'm with is phenomenal. Nothing like that, so I don't want you guys to be confused or think that I'm talking about him in any way, shape, or form. The person I'm talking about is actually incarcerated now for completely different reasons. However, I'm not going to blame my alcohol abuse on him. It is 100% was my choice to let that substance overrun my ability to cope, to deal with things. So many things had piled up at that point that I didn't have the funds to go to therapy or a doctor to address responsibly, that medicating myself with alcohol was really easy. I had an undiagnosed panic disorder at the time, and so a lot of my life I spent in fight or flight mode, and I would black out when I would have these severe panic attacks that wouldn't be onset by anything in the moment, but I was self-medicating. So that was like in July of when I was 19, I think it was July of 2016. Some of my YouTube videos on here, I'm not sober or I'm abusing alcohol, maybe not as heavily as I was at the end of my addiction, which was not captured on film in any way, shape, or form, but a lot of them have been privated or deleted because it is embarrassing, and as vulnerable and open and honest and how much I share footage now, looking back then, I just feel sad for myself and embarrassed. I have spent a lot of time making sure I don't feel shameful, because shame is a dark place to be, and it often can mean relapse for a lot of individuals and addicts. Regret is something that I think is healthy, because to acknowledge something and know that it was a mistake, I think is healthy regret. But being shameful of those things, I think, is easier to harbor secrets, and when you're keeping secrets, it's a lot easier to be an addict. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does. I'm just kind of speaking from my heart and my mind and kind of giving you guys the timeline. So after we broke things off, I left, I started drinking. I was very alone. I didn't have the best place to stay. It was the only place me and my dog could both stay, and I wasn't going to leave Chief behind. He's still with me. He just turned 7 in August. Love him. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about him, and possibly I'm sure he's in some YouTube videos. My memory is one that is hardly there for a lot of things. There's things I do remember, and then there's obviously very intense things that I don't remember and will never probably remember. But that's just the effects of alcohol. Moving on to November of that year, my father passed away. Not my biological dad, but my dad nonetheless. And he was an addict, and so I had always prepared myself for his potential death. His potential unexpected death, if you will. But I never prepared myself for what it would be like to watch my brother and sister lose their dad. I don't want to cry. I miss him, and obviously it's close to Thanksgiving and we lost him on Thanksgiving. So October can be kind of a hard month because I feel like I kind of disassociate in November, but I'm working on that anyway. I self-proclaimed took on the responsibility of my brother and sister's well-being, their innocence, their peace of mind, and I took that as my own responsibility. No one put that on me, but I put it on myself very heavily, and I drank a lot at his funeral, but I just remember thinking, like, no matter what I do, there are things I cannot protect them from. There are things I cannot save them from. And this is something that they have to sit and live with for their whole entire life. And there's nothing I can do to make it better. Since then, my brother's 19 now, my sister's 22 with a kid. He's amazing. I love my nephew, he's great. And I think I subconsciously dropped that responsibility because I put it on myself so heavily that I was being crushed and destroyed. And I continued to drink because I think I felt guilty for letting go of that responsibility, because I should have been who I needed when I was younger for them, and I wasn't even being who I needed to when I was younger for myself. Things just spiraled. They got out of control really quickly. It was just so much easier than feeling sad or having trouble sleeping or whatever it may be, and it turned from drinking at night to like, oh, maybe I'll take a shot at work, to, oh, no one even notices that I'm drinking at work, so obviously I'm going to continue drinking at work. And then it turned into like, well, why would I not be drinking, because might as well, everything's funner when I drink. And it snowballed so quick that the last 6 months of my addiction, I would say the last year of my addiction, I struggled between what I thought was constant violent sickness and hangovers, which was really just fighting back and forth between withdrawal and enough consumption to keep me normal, because I really wasn't drunk the last year, but I was very sick. I got sick a lot, and I ruined my teeth because of that. I luckily have no other long-term health conditions that we know of because of my drinking, somehow. And I switched from whiskey to vodka, which, if you know anything about alcoholism, a lot of people say, like, you're not a true alcoholic until you switch to vodka, but it's just the cheapest thing. It got to a point where I was homeless, and I slept in my sister's nursery. It was... I've never said that out loud. Just now, what I just said. I'm trying to think about how that makes me feel. But all I can think to say is it just makes me feel really sad for who I was. I disconnected myself completely from that girl. It's like, I know her, I knew her, I love her. Fuck that girl. I don't know that girl. I don't claim that girl. I don't know who she is. I ended up being able to get a place with a roommate. The roommate ended up being insane. I kicked them out, and I was door dashing because I lost my job due to breaking a social media policy, which was drinking wine online, which didn't make a whole lot of sense because no one knew where I worked, but I digress. I was fired nonetheless, and that was the first job I'd ever been fired from. I went to 2 funerals in 1 week that week, and now we're in 2020 at this point, timeline-wise, when I lost that job. And I was door dashing, and then I met Jordan in November, October, November, yeah. And I think I lost my job in January or February of 2021, so I started door dashing, and I did that for a while, and then my mom got out of prison. And then my mom moved right down the street from me, actually, which was kind of exciting. Well, I'm not quite sure where that cut me off, but I got a medical taper from the emergency room to safely detox, and I documented my 2nd or 3rd day on TikTok and every day after that. And the support I got was overwhelming. And I went to therapy, and I got a real job, and I moved up in management to an assistant general manager within the first month, and then after about 6 months I found a position open at a rehab and decided to go work there. And it gave me such immense insight for the differences between alcoholics and alcoholism and how different it can be and vary. And it made me feel like I wasn't the only person in the world who's made the worst mistake in the world, because I'm not. And it is something that's not easy to share on the internet. It's not something that's easy to put your biggest and one of the worst mistakes someone can make open to the public to be criticized, to be commented on. That's my alcoholism story. That's what led me to getting sober. This is my story now. It's why I left YouTube, which is really the real reason I feel the need to share this here. But everything's on TikTok as well. Because it helps people. It helps people realize they have a problem. It helps people realize who know they have a problem realize it's possible to get sober and how beautiful it is. And it helps people who have loved ones that are alcoholics. It helps them to understand their family and their relationship and why they behave the way they behave a lot easier. Alcoholism is a very poor way to treat an undiagnosed, often untreated, responsibly mental health disorder, and now I am doing those things. I go to therapy, I'm medicated responsibly, and I'm very happy and I'm very proud. My life has always been hard. It often feels like I was dealt a hand that was unplayable. I've done a lot of hard work on myself and in my life to where I finally feel like not only do I have a hand that's playable, but might actually be winnable if I stay in the game. I don't share this easily. On TikTok it's a lot easier, I think. I don't know why. But this is the reality of my life and my story, and I'm grateful for my journey with alcoholism and sobriety, because without it I wouldn't be nearly as grateful for every single little leaf and ray of sunshine and burst of wind and reliable vehicle and warm home that I am immensely grateful for now. I really have so much more that I want to share with you guys, but my story my childhood is dark. It's sad. I've been through things and seen things that no human should have to endure or see, especially through a child's eyes. And that's not an excuse for the choices I made while being an alcoholic. I'm just saying in general, I think that sharing the reality of life and struggles and real things helps people feel less alone, helps people realize sobriety is obtainable. And I think that if you love an addict or you know an addict, that you understand. And if you don't, you are one of the luckiest people in the world. And I hope you realize that. I hope that you're grateful for that. But I understand that not everyone can see beyond what they know. That's okay. I'm really proud of myself. I own a business. I pay my bills and more, and I'm fed, I'm happy, I'm healthy. My relationships with loved ones are thriving, and I've done a lot of work and I've processed a lot of trauma. I have more to go and always will, as life is life and goes up and down, but I think it's important to be vulnerable, and I think it's important to be honest, and that's the honest truth. Did everything that I was supposed to from the day that I got sober forward. And it is the most rewarding, humbling, and gratifying experience I've ever went through. And I'm ultimately grateful for it. Truly. I'm allowed to feel two things at once, so I'm allowed to be regretful of my decisions and healthily move forward in a way that is conducive to being a productive, happy, helpful member of society. I don't know if this will reach the right people, but I hope that it does. And if you're struggling or you need help or you need someone to talk to, my DMs on Instagram and TikTok are open. I always respond in the comments, whatever I can do to help you. I have a sobriety playlist on TikTok about all good things and also how I got sober, more in detail and depth, and I think that's it. I think, that's my story, and that's just kind of where it started and happened and snowballed, and it's kind of unbelievable, huh? Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And thanks for hopefully trying to understand my immense regret for the choices that I made, but my simultaneous gratitude for going through it and pride of who I've become. Yeah. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. This was a heavy one. I love you.